What's up, everyone? Beast Mode back here with another video. So today I wanted to cover my tournament run at the recent HRC tournament. Of course, you guys are probably looking at this list and saying, "Where's zombies?" So I'm actually trying a new challenge this year. I'm trying to challenge myself, essentially. Um, well, for the second half of the season, I've already got an invite to Rulers. I've topped a few events already this year. So at this point, I'm trying to see how many events can I top with different decks. Essentially, I'm picking up a deck and trying to top the event with it. I have topped so far. I have a topped event last year with Quick Draw. I've topped multiple events with zombies. I topped Deck Devastators last month with Diva Hero for the first time. I picked up the deck and we went with it and ended up making the top 8. I think I went 7-1. And for this tournament here, which was smaller, only 75 players, I picked up Machina, the Machina deck essentially, and I have not played this deck before, to be honest. And a good friend of mine, Ryan Knight, actually sent me the list. We were play testing the night before. I almost played Quick Draw, and I just kept losing to this deck. I couldn't do anything, and I said, well, you know what? I'll just play this tomorrow. So he sent me the list. In the morning, I switched out a couple cards. I actually cut out the the second DD Warrior Lady. I just felt that there's too many normal summons in the deck. I just don't particularly care to be normal summoning DD Warrior Lady when I could set a Hamster or Raikou. So I cut one of the DD Warrior Lady. I think I played around with the trap lineup a little bit. I added a couple bottomless. His list was different. Sideboard, I changed up a bit too. I like the 3 Consecrated Light because they're pretty easy sideboards. You just put them in and you can side deck out some number of Caius. You can even side deck out the Gores. And the one thing there was a big oversight of the weekend, which was there's no Lightsworn sideboard cards. And the problem is it's really difficult to side Light Mirror or even Skill Drain because this deck can't play. Light Mirror stops the Raikou, which is a big part of the deck. And so I'm not sure entirely what I need to put in for Lightsworn. I just put in double Dyna and some Smashing Ground, Starlight Road. Unfortunately, I actually played two Lightsworn deck this weekend during this tournament, so I just was not prepared. Plus, I'm not that experienced with the deck at all, so... But that's kind of the challenge. Just kind of pick up a deck and, with limited experience and try to top with it. So I like the challenge. Of course, can't really use it as an excuse if that's what you're trying to do, right? So definitely some things I would change is I just do not particularly care for the Raikou milling in this deck because I don't feel like there's a whole purpose of it. I feel like you're just milling to play Pot of Avarice, which is a fantastic card in this deck because this deck is very good at grinding resources and then slamming fortresses down mid to late game, and it's really difficult for your opponent to deal with. The problem is, in, let's say, Vayu, for example, Raikou is a key card because you're milling Siroko's, you're milling Plague, you're milling Vayus, and even Quick Draw, you're milling Dandelion. So there's some goal. Here, I'm not sure what the real goal is. Are you trying to mill the fortress? Because you only play one force. So that's where I would change here. I think this card needs to be at 2, maybe even 3, to make Raikou milling worthwhile. Because if you have this sitting in your hand, you mill a fortress, boom, you have a essential free fortress. And then, of course, Pot of Avarice is live. So Raikous are obviously there for other reasons, mainly to destroy back row so you can summon the fortress and obviously get free attacks because Deep Prisons and Bottomless just destroy these guys. That's a problem. So I do like the Raikou aspect of destroying the back rows, but I just don't like the whole blind milling without much of a benefit. I just feel like trying to resolve Pot of Avarice is not ideal because this card is great. It's amazing mid to late game, but opening hand is brutal because you're waiting there. And oftentimes I find myself with like 4 monsters in the graveyard and just could not get to the 5th. I would side down. Probably need to side out 1, maybe even 2 of these, depending on the matchup, if you think DD Crows are coming in. Because you can really stop this deck by just DD Crow. Not that you can DD Crow the Fortress, but you can DD Crow the Pot of Avarice. And as you can see here, a lot of these monsters, like this gets hit with Bottomless a lot of the time, or Deep Prison. So having a low monster count and not being able to resolve a Pot of Avarice had me into some situations where I was like nearly decking out. I actually think I did deck out one match. So that's some of the things I would change with the deck. I try to get a little bit of Lightsworn help in the sideboard just because that deck seems to be a little bit more popular as of late. And even with side deck cards, sometimes you just lose because the deck's milling crazy. But maybe cut back on a Consecrated Light. Probably only 3. That was a bit of overkill on my part. And I would say maybe add 1 to 2 Force. Try to cut something here. I'd probably cut a DD Warrior Lady. I just don't think that card's all that spectacular at this time. It's not necessary in this deck. It's just another normal summon, I feel. But that's what I would change with the deck. Tournament recap is essentially round one. I played a trap deck. I have no idea what was going on. I don't even know the rulings of half the cards. They were like the trap monsters essentially. You flip them up, they are still traps, but they're monsters, and they special summon to the field. I have no idea. They summoned, I think it's Yugioh, the Slifer looking card there, and it gains 1,000 for every continuous trap in the graveyard. I think it was like 7,000 attack, and it ran over my card trooper one game. And so I was like getting a little nervous. I'm like, what's going on? That's the hardest part sometimes. Playing against a deck that you just don't know what's going on, you can just get caught. So I ended up winning 2-1, luckily. Round two, I played a Lightsworn Flameveil deck, which is actually like really bad for this deck because Fire Dog runs over Gear Frame, which is like one of the best normal summons in the game. I always call this the Bionic Stratos because this card here is not as good as Stratos because the plus that you get is not like a real plus. It's a fortress, or it would be a plus if you can get like the Force. If you had more than these and the fortress in the graveyard, then it's like really good, but still an ideal summon. And this deck is really good going second. I'll tell you, I did not win a single rock, paper, scissors the whole day, and I still ended up 5-2. So going second, this deck is a very good going second deck because of this card. Ideally, you probably still want to go first because Hamster into Raikou into Caius is just so deadly, but the going second play of summoning Gear Frame is really strong as well. So I will tell you that I was okay with losing every die roll with this deck because I was still able to play game two, or going second rather. But anyway, round two, I played Flameveil, Lightsworn. It was a close match. We went 2-1. I just didn't have anything in the sideboard to really stop the whole deck. I did put in some Dynas because Rekindling was really strong, D-Prison, and just try to take out cards that were just useless. So usually MST, Dust Tornado can be pretty bad in that matchup because they don't have many trap cards. But round three, I played against Diva Hero. So Diva Hero is one of those decks that obviously I just picked up and topped recently with, and the deck was just flowing so good the day I topped. It was I drew Double Mally a couple times. I drew Spine Gilman a few times, but when you draw well with that deck, it is the best deck of the format. I really do believe that. It's just so hard to beat. But how often do you draw well enough to call it the best deck of the format? It's not often. Not without help. Not you might need Gold Sark. You need to draw Future Fusion often. And when the deck does not draw like that, like my last War League match, I went to game 3 and I did not resolve a single Miracle Fusion with a deck in all 3 games. The deck is awful. Diva Hero is not good when you do not resolve a Miracle Fusion the entire match. Now, you can't expect it to resolve 3 Miracle Fusions, but to not resolve a single one in a match is obviously, you're just playing with cards that are just not that great. You're dealing with Infernal Prodigies, you're drawing Spine Gilmans, you're drawing Double Mally. They're subpar cards when they don't all work together. So that's a big problem with Diva Hero. And my opponent had that same issue when I played them in the tournament. They just bricked. They didn't get to play. It was a 2-0, and it wasn't because I played amazing. It was because they didn't get to play at all. So I caution you, if you do pick up Diva Hero, you got to take the good and the bad. Sometimes you're going to draw Double Mally. Sometimes you're going to draw Spine Gilman. And you just have to accept that those hands are going to happen because you are also going to draw Future Fusion, Double Miracle Fusion, opening hand, and you're just going to win the game as well. So it's one of those decks that can be hit or miss. So that was round 3. Round 4, I played Blackwings. Game 1, if I remember correctly, I won. I pretty much had every answer. It was Bottomless, D-Prison, Sirocco, Shura, all that. Game 2, my opponent opened very strong. It was like double Whirlwind. And from what I remember correctly, my opponent, she did not sleep, was up for 24 hours and just was not awake enough to really even play and just did not end the game despite opening double Whirlwind. And then I made an illegal play, not purposely, of course. I didn't know. I activated Heavy Storm and my opponent activated Starlight Road. And I went to chain Dust Tornado to my Heavy, which I didn't read, of course. That's one problem I have. I don't read my cards. This says you can only target one of your opponent's cards they control because I'm so used to doing the MST play. Not that I've ever really done this that often. I think I've only resolved the whole Heavy. They changed Starlight Road and I chained my own MST one time. So that actually is a way to stop the whole Stardust Dragon from coming out. So if you Heavy and they change Starlight Road, you can actually MST the Heavy, and the MST is being destroyed by... the Heavy is being destroyed by the MST, not Starlight Road negating it. So that's a little combo you can do, but you cannot do that with Dust Tornado. So don't make the same mistake I did. My opponent didn't catch it either. probably due to lack of sleep, to be honest with you. We just kept playing, and it was like 12 turns later before the tournament organizer was like messaged us, but at that point it was accepted game state. So I ended up winning the game. We would have still had a game 3, but neither of us were playing that well game 2, to be honest. But just so you're aware, you cannot Dust Tornado the Heavy to try to stop the Starlight Road. That card does not actually work on your own. So that is something I will not forget. But anyway, that was round 4. Round 5, I played against Zombies. This zombie player actually went on to go 6-1. And it was a very close game. It actually came down to game 3. It was a very simplified game state, and it was a 50-50. I needed them to not hit my Solemn so I could push for game next turn, because it didn't matter what they had for back row. I had the Solemn, and they ended up hitting the 50-50, hit the Solemn, and then I couldn't game them the next turn. So that'll happen some number of times. Can't really be upset by that. So I took a loss there. And then round 6, I played against 10-foot, who was actually on Lightsworn this time, not his typical value build. And actually have a little replay here. So game 1, I opened up I opened up pretty weak, and I set like 2 back row. He went first, set a back row, and I went and set 2, and then he flipped and pro stormed me, which I hardly ever get pro storm, but it seems to be only against him for some reason. So he actually main deck heavy. I don't even know if Lightsworn typically play heavy or not. I'm not sure, but so game 1 was over pretty quickly, and then game 2, we get to this part of the game here where he has he has everything here. So he actually brings out Armory Arm to try to play around Gores and still try to OTK through it. So I'm trying to figure out the best time to drop Gores here, because if I take both, that's 5,000. If I drop Gores on that attack, then they run it over with the Armory Arm Judgment Dragon, and I lose. So I actually have to drop it on the very first attack, which is what we do here. And now we'll just play this out, and you'll see how this game goes. Is pretty cool. And they have the call too. So actually, he would have been able to probably win if, I think he said to me, if he had done a couple things, but he doesn't know that I have guaranteed Gores or whatever. But so I'm really in a tough position here. Obviously, Mills double Wolf on top of this. And so at this point, you're thinking like, you lose, so just scoop. But you should not scoop in Yu-Gi-Oh in general. Typically, unless they're doing like some infinite loop and they have already like shown the combo 5 times over and they know that they're doing it right. And this situation here, it's just another turn. You're saving 10 seconds. Unless you're trying to conceal information, which there's nothing here. I don't really care if my opponent sees any of the cards I'm playing right here. I would rather just see what they do the next turn. So my play here is obviously we're just going to smash the big Judgment Dragon, and we're just going to set Fossil Dino and Book of Moon, and we're probably just going to lose when they pay 1,000 to blow up the field. That's my thought. But if we look here, let's look at it from my opponent's point of view. So they're looking at the graveyard here. There's no Mirror Force, okay? So they don't have to worry about Mirror Force. This back row could be torrential, but they're not going to summon here. If it's a deep prison, it doesn't matter. Everything here is too big. Even if this is a Raikou, they can't stop every attack. Deep prison stops one, they attack, Raikou kills the other, and they still attack directly. So the only thing that would actually stop them here is Starlight Road. So I know a lot of people looking at this play and saying like they can't believe that what's about to happen. They can't believe that he just attacks. But this is actually the 100% the right play is attacking here. Except, and the reason why he does not know that this is here, he had not seen one. He doesn't know that I actually side decked in Fossil Dino. So instead of blowing up, which seems to be the obvious case when you see that I have a Book of Moon here, because you just blow up, pay 1,000, and attack directly. If he's reading this as a possible Starlight Road, he's looking at his cards and saying, what card beats me here? So this is actually proper Yu-Gi-Oh. He loses, if this is Starlight Road, he loses the he loses the game, okay? Because nothing here really outs the Stardust Dragon, and so he's playing around that, and he actually attacks into Dinah, so I get a full board wipe with Dinah, which was like really, really good here. I actually didn't expect to still be in the game at this point in time, so we just go back and forth, and of course I'm drawing dead, and he actually beats me on his very last card. I think I'm like out of monsters at one point. I didn't play very well. I tried to attack for game it, and I actually run myself into a Mirror Force, and he like kills 4 of my monsters. So 10-foot's a great player. Not upset that I lost to him. Oh, we got to fix this here. And let's get the deck list back up. So I lost to 10-foot, which was fine. And then last round, I actually play against a frog player. I'm not even sure how the frog matchup works with this deck, to be honest, but we played, and I actually played game 3. I hid behind Fossil Dyna the entire game. It was in attack mode. I just kept attacking. I would compulse it back to my hand if they tried to soul exchange. I did everything I could to protect the Fossil Dyna, and because it was hero frogs, I believe, and they just could not out the Dyna. They had a handful of like Battle Fader, Gores, whatever, and I ended up getting the win. So I finished 5-2, and the opponent that I actually lost to, the zombie player, finished 6-1 and decided to drop from the tournament for whatever reason, I don't know. And so they should have automatically guaranteed me in top 8, but they dropped. So I actually had 9th place before they dropped, and then that moved me into top 8. And so I had 8th place with this deck. And then a couple hours later, it was brought to my attention that they had not done the math right. And 10-foot actually like recalculated the math because he actually was a spot below me, and he redid the math, and it looks like there was an error in the math, and they had to like redo the math and then fix top 8 again. And then 10-foot ended up getting 8th spot, and I got 9th. So this deck was 9th place, and for me that's close enough for my challenge, in my opinion. I don't have enough tournaments that I can possibly play in to try to replay the deck again just to get one spot more to say I top 8'd, because in my book that's essentially top 8. I was literally in top 8 and then out of top 8, and that's good enough for me. So that's kind of like the challenge. I'm trying to challenge myself to play other decks, and really this format is too diverse, in my opinion, to just sit there and just play the same deck all the time. I think that you're probably just not you're not going to get better at the game, I feel, if you just play one deck all the time for the next all of eternity, right? If we just keep playing Edison format for the next 5 years and you just play one deck, like, I don't know, I feel like you might be doing yourself a disservice if you don't try some of the other decks. So that's what I'm doing. The next tournament I play in is probably Edison World Qualifiers. I think that's like August 5th. I'm leaning between Fairies and Plant Cat because I do feel that I can probably play just about any deck, almost any deck, and I have a strong shot at topping. Not because I think I'm the world's greatest, but I just think that my playstyle transitions pretty well from deck to deck for the most part, and I'm gonna give it a go with something else. So again, I really appreciate all of you for your support, and we're getting close to 1,000 subs. So if you do like the content, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.